Hi and welcome to another narration presented by yours truly, Cryptid Roost. Let's just take a moment's silence for all the haters, Karens and the trolls. That's enough. Be sure to check out the blooper reel at the end of the video, which is then followed by the end screen where you will find more videos listed. So grab your coffee, sit back and enjoy the show. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not. Void Operator Part 2. Awesome series is written by Sesley 1987. This section of the ship Vanta tracked the captain's ID to was a maze of closely built living quarters. A honeycomb-like layout where every room had at least 2 or 3 doorways to maneuver through. She had to clear the crew quarters one by one. The personal pictures of smiling people and families seemed more alien to Vanta than the zombie-like abominations she had fought only moments ago. Signs of violence were everywhere: bullet holes, plasma burns, busted lights and smashed-in doors. Vanta clocked blood splatter all over the furniture, the floor, even the ceiling. The fact there were no bodies was not lost on her. She knew that they might be turned and mutated to be hostiles now. She didn't understand if they were undead or what. Nothing made sense right now. It had been nothing but madness since stepping onto this ship. She cleared each of the living spaces as she drew closer to the captain's beacon. The cramped hallway opened up to a larger common room type area with couches, tables, and holo-entertainment display station. Right across on the other side of the open area was where Captain Lux was supposed to be, just down a hallway and to the left. Still, the quiet was getting to Vanta, which was strange. But Vanta had been feeling a lot of strange things lately. She was used to fighting conventional enemies, not whatever this was. She better get the answers she needed quickly. Vanta, came Ohm's monotone voice, breaking the silence in her head. Before you were ambushed in the hallway earlier, I pinged your 3 attackers and at least a dozen more personnel throughout the ship. During the fight, all the ID began to go offline, as if they were being destroyed. All except Captain Lux's. Do you really think our enemy is smart enough to dig their ID trackers out to their bodies and destroy them? Vanta asked. It would be foolish to underestimate anything at this time, came the AI's simple answer. As if the universe wanted to prove the AI's point, Vanta turned the sharp left corner to look down a hallway leading to a single door with a sign reading Captain's Quarters. In front of the door, standing tightly packed together between Vanta and the captain's room, were a dozen heavily armed Marines. They had all created an overlapping field of fire, some by standing in the back, kneeling in the middle, and lying prone in the front. Vanta thanked her training, their enhanced reflexes, and her durable armor for keeping her alive. Because milliseconds she made the corner and laid eyes on the enraged faces of the Marines, she knew they had been waiting for her. She launched backwards as bullets tore up the wall and the ground where she had been. A round grazed her helmet, knocking her head to rebound and for her to stumble backwards into cover. Vanta quickly used the reverse momentum to roll away and back up to a shooting position. She was safe for now, having just barely retreated around the corner from the hellfire. But she knew her attackers would press the chase, keeping the pressure on her. Every breath which she had to think was precious at this moment. Frag! Vanta shouted, snapping the fingers on her left hand. In a very literal second, a rainbow spark would teleport in a fragmentation grenade for her to use. But it was too slow because she was ambushed again. A fist smashed out of the wall to the right of her, the punch only missing inches from the front of her face. Only a split second ago, Vanta had been standing right in the path of the dangerous punch. The wannabe sneaky marine had to put so much weight into his surprise attack that he came bursting out of the driveway in front of her in a cloud of debris and particles. Vanta figured this drywall covered marine that had just clumsily appeared in front of her had embedded itself inside the wall in an attempt to get behind her, and the rest of the crazed marines were going to run her down. But in Vanta's infinite luck, she'd backpedaled quick enough when she saw the trap laid out for her at the end of the hallway. The plan changed for the drywall marine facing Vanta, and it was unable to think on its feet. It only understood the plans given. Burst out from the wall behind the black intruder, grab the intruder by its thin neck, put the barrel of the sawed-off shotgun to its scrawny thing's head, and blow its brain meat free of its annoying protective helmet. Now, where the drywall marine expected to see the trapped and scared intruder, all the marine saw were the others like him rounding the corner with their weapons raised. All of them were ready to shoot anything that moved. Something strong urged the drywall marine to turn around, that his prey had somehow slipped behind him. Before the corrupted drywall marine could spin around to face Vanta, she wrapped the rifle tight around his neck and pulled him tight. There was a beeping sound as something was shoved down the back of his jacket. The sound was familiar. Grenade! The memories of multiple marines told him at once. Vanta planted a ferocious kick into the small of the corrupted marine's back, flinging him haphazardly towards the mob bunched together at the end of the hallway. Vanta let off a volley of precision rifle fire at near point blank at the group of enemies facing her, striking and stuttering the enemies as they tried to aim around the drywall marine as he stumbled into them. Vanta decided to do something unexpected. Ingenuity and improvisation was what made a void operator. So knowing she couldn't clear the hallway before the grenade went off, sighted her rifle right where she had placed the grenade in the marine's jacket. She stepped sideways into the hole in the wall created by the marine and without looking, squeezed the trigger. Ohm, astute as usual, had read the situation and dampened Vanta's senses at the moment the bullet ruptured the grenade, in order to keep her eardrums from being ruptured by the explosion. Vanta barely made it in safely into the shallow hole of the drywall, as fire and gore blew down the hallway past her. She knew the grenade most likely eliminated the drywall marine, but she had no idea if it had killed any of the remaining marines. So she stepped back out into the smoky hallway and let rip full auto with her rifle. Screams of pain answered her as she backed down the hallway in a steady retreat. The high velocity and output of her bullets going downrange caused the smoke to spin and dance in swirling patterns. To Vanta's mild surprise, she saw the enemy pressing the attack, but she was quickly learning to not let her enemies surprise her with their tenacity. She couldn't set them to the standards of all the human combatants she had fought in the past. They stumbled through the smoke, gore-splattered, burnt flesh, but still pushing forward. Their aggressive fire pelted her armour, but she barely stumbled back around the corner and out of their sightline. Vanta considered stringing her numerous attackers out between the honeycomb structure of the living quarters. She would break the sightline and flank them. She could use hit-and-run tactics to chop down their superior numbers. She had room to kill them all, like she had done so many other enemies so many times before. "Buckshot, load out!" Heavy spread, Vanta ordered as the first screaming marine came charging around the corner. Vanta used the rifle to shave off the top of his head from the nose up. The damn thing actually continued firing its rifle in her general direction as it bounced off the wall and eventually tripped over an ottoman from the common area. Inventory shows we only have one crate of depleted uranium spread, so 24 rounds. But may I make a suggestion? You may, Vanta said sharply, as she slid behind a couch after blowing the kneecap out from under a face mask wearing marine. She knew the couch wouldn't remain safe for long, as it was quickly being chewed apart by a barrage of incoming bullets. Your plasma shells take too long to manually load, and solid rounds just go through the lightly armoured bodies of your enemies. Furthermore, these combatants don't seem to go into shock or unconsciousness when their bodies are hit with these types of rounds. It seems you need to tear them apart, Holmes said calmly, as Vanta escaped the common room, down a side hallway as the dozens of her enemies spilled into the common room, firing with abandon. Okay, just do it! Whatever you have planned, do it! Vanta ducked in the hallway she was in, as weapon fire zipped through the flimsy walls, leaving little trails of drywall and dust all around her. She could hear them spreading out, their heavy boots echoing off in different directions. Somehow, they were communicating without saying a single word to each other. Loaded. Special formulated bits of plexiglass that have been grinded down into sand, equivalent to firing a shotgun with 10,000 tiny pellets. Pretty useless against armoured targets, and you have to get in close. Ohm finally spoke up. 3-second charge between shots. That's gonna be a problem, Ohm! Vanta shouted as a drooling female marine with an auto pistol jumped out from a flanking hallway to cut her off. There was a shimmering explosion, followed by the twinkling sound of glass as hundreds of particles flew outwards in a cone. Unlike the plasma shells earlier, the glass picked the female marine up off her feet and carried her backwards, as skin and bone was stripped off her body like tender meat. The female's body pounced sickly on the ground, quite dead. The front of her skull and chest are gone. The red insides of her body sparkled like diamonds from all the hundreds of embedded pieces of glass-like material within her. Vanta noted a mental thanks to her AI on its selection of ordnance as she hopped over the marine's ravaged body and crunched across the crystal glass. She knew to keep moving. The seconds it took the Mockingbird to charge kept her open for counterattack. I have teleported in an underbarrel and second trigger to your rifle, continued the voice of her AI. With this, you will be able to continue to suppress the enemy with 45 automatic caliber while your shotgun shells load in. Vanta identified the second trigger just in time to lean around a corner, confronting two Marines bum-rushing her position. She laid a steady stream of bullets on target, dropping one Marine to the ground as the other jumped into a nearby bedroom for cover. She pressed the attack, knowing her glass shell would soon be ready, and sprinted to the doorway where the Marine jumped to hide. He was quick, getting off 2 shots to Vanta's chest before Vanta vaporized the Marine's face with razor-edged diamond flat point blank at subsonic speed. Vanta turned around in pain and exploded the head of the Marine, crawling back to its feet in the hallway with the 45 rounds. The stubborn thing still tried to stand, even with most of its brain laid bare to the atmosphere of the ship. Vanta rushed over and slammed a mighty foot down into the exposed skull, splitting gore everywhere. That, finally stopped the Marine from struggling. Caution! Teleporting in 2 different ammo types at such a high volume at such a fast pace may burn out the teleporter on our transport ship. You know how fickle teleportation technology is, Ohm warned when there was a moment of silence between the fighting. Vanta put her deadly strategy to work by circling around in the maze of connected rooms, keeping her foes off balance by punishing them when one strayed too far from the group, and then quickly falling back to cover before they could converge on her. Her enemy's frustration must have been boiling over, because she heard the thunderous staccato of heavy machine gun fire start up from multiple directions. She saw the approaching lines of bullets and tracer rounds rip up the walls, cutting crisscrossing paths towards her. She ducked just in time and found a large enough bullet hole left in the wall to fire back at where she suspected one of the shooters to be firing from. That slowed them down, but she felt the noose tightening. They were firing blindly in hopes of flushing her out. She had to work faster. On and on the running firefight went, like this for another 2 minutes, 17 seconds. Only her quick movements and constant barrage of return fire from her Mockingbird rifle was giving her a fighting chance against an enemy force outnumbering her so vastly. She had both barrels of her weapon firing non-stop, constantly teleporting in more ammo to smash her enemy with. The heat generated from the continuous use of the Mockingbird's innate teleportation technology was scorching her suit and immediate area. Of course, the Stygian battlesuit was made to be paired with the Mockingbird rifle for this particular reason. It could handle the intense heat generated by teleportation. But even a battlesuit had a limit on how much it could take. The eerie glimmer of heat and smoke followed in her wake as she flowed effortlessly from room to room, fighting. But at the 2 minutes, 19 seconds mark of the constant stream of gunfire, her gun fell abruptly silent, just as she turned the corner on 3 of the few remaining enemies. She had been in the zone, and so she cursed, because she had already had 2 of the Psycho Marines lined up to take out with one single classified shotgun blast. Weapon jam! Teleportation relay overheated! Ohm yelled in warning as Vanta jumped back behind cover. The 2 Marines blew chunks out of the corners of the wall and began chasing her. Vanta dropped her useless Mockingbird rifle as she tripped over the body of the female Marine she had killed only moments earlier. Desperation fueled her thoughts. Her weapon was down. She had taken a lot of bullets during the fight, causing her suit to flake off too many layers. The heat from the constant teleport had also been wearing out her nanosuit. She felt death's cruel fingers scratching at her soul. And yet, these were the few times she felt completely human, completely alive. Hidden under Vanta's formless black mask, a secret smile known only by her and her AI spread across her lips. She bent over to grab the dead body at her feet by the scruff of its tattered uniform, and in a feat of Herculean strength she launched the body of the 2 Marines rounding the corner. The closest Marine must have assumed the body flying towards them was Vanta, because he let both barrels loose from his sawed-off shotgun, blasting the dead Marine in half with a vile explosion of gore. Both the enemies charging around the corner were showered in a burst of putrid blood and guts, along with the bigger pieces of the desecrated body pelting both Marines with sticky wet impacts. Vanta saw that the second marine around the corner had actually caught the body of its fallen comrade after the first blew it pretty much in half. Her smirk widened when she realised that they were temporarily disorientated and thought the dead body was still her. Vanta saw the lumbering fool had dropped his weapon to try to strangle the head and torso of the female body. The first marine blindly tried to manually reload its sword off, blood covering its visor. Vanta gave the two no quarter as she reached back and swung the onyx sword over and down in a devastating arc, cleaving through the marine, folding the female of her body. The black blade raced downwards in a vertical cut, rendering the marine and the female half in two. The sword-off wielding marine was quicker, trying to step back and get a clear shot. Vanta took advantage of its low visibility and used the forward momentum of the sword slash to combat roll quickly to the side of the retreating marine, staying in his peripherals. Before her enemy could bring its weapon to bear, Vanta sliced the sword across its kneecaps, sending the marine toppling over without its legs. Vanta made short work of the legless marine by mounting him and placing the blade on his throat. She stared at the dark silhouette of herself in its visor as she pushed down with brutal force, decapitating and killing the threat. The instant she felt the blade completely sever the spinal cord, she felt an odd sensation. It was a familiar sensation. Even though she could count on one hand the number of times she had used decapitation in her line of work, this way felt natural, almost comforting. For a flash, she felt cold, like her nano armor wasn't keeping her body from burning to death. It felt like she was naked, and the chill that swept across her felt like the mountain wind. She knew this somehow, even though she had never in her life experienced the natural wind of Earth's biosphere grace her skin. It was deep from within her, like a core memory. She took the mental frost out of her head and yanked the large machine gun out of the hands of the other marine. She was quickly back on her feet, scanning the bullet-riddled hallways for threats. Let's see. We appear to be in the clear for now. Out of the 13 hostiles I counted in the hallway earlier, 11 have been killed, and 4 more were killed when they tried to ambush you from behind. Where did the other hostiles go? Vanta asked him, as she double-checked the hallways and rooms in her immediate vicinity. She appreciated the fact that Ohm was keeping a tally of killed and still active enemies, because she had lost count in the frenzy of battle. Losing such a high level of situational awareness was uncommon for her, but it did happen on rare occasions. Ohm must have noticed something was off with her by chiming in to remind her. Vanta figured it was probably a slight change in her vitals that only the AI could discern. Last I detected them, they were moving back towards the center of the ship. A second defensible position, I would guess. They left behind these last 2 you've just faced to cover their retreat. No matter, Vanta said, retrieving her mockingbird and securing it to her back. Let's see why they fought so hard to keep us from Captain Lux. Vanta made her way back to the same hallway leading to the captain's quarters. The same hallway where she had almost been killed in the ambush. As she approached the captain's door, she could see that the Marines had been trying to bash it in. There were dents and scorched marks all over its metal frame. Scratched upon it with some sort of jagged tool and smeared with blood were the crudely written letters, Sinner. Vanta felt a chill go down her back as she once again remembered the moon of Mars and the insanity she had dealt with there. Strange for the captain's living quarters to be locked down with reinforced titanium blast doors, Ohm mentioned. The rest of the crew was surrounded by drywall. If this ship were to be damaged and vent into open space, everyone would die, except for the captain. Seems about right, Vanta said as she scanned the battered door for some sort of control panel. When she was a few steps away from the door, she snapped her large weapon to the ready as a red light above the door winked to life.
Void operator,
crackled the voice of a genderless AI.
The captain expected the conglomerate to send one of his killers to clean up this failure of a mission. Please wait while I disable the door lock and disable automated defenses.
Vanta waited with rigid anticipation as the door to the captain's room shuddered violently and opened slowly, letting out an awful metallic screech as the dented door grinded against its tracks. No more of this madness. Just give me something normal to fight, Vanta thought silently to herself. Never would she allow Ohm to hear and discern the growing unease she felt about this mission. She was used to having little to no details on her missions, but this was different. The voices, the hallucinations, and all these people somehow twisted to fight like rabid animals. Worse was, they somehow fought with a silent intelligence guiding them. Looking into the captain's room as the doors opened, she saw the laser sights of two automated turrets. Her visual display switched in an instant to allow her to see deeper into the room. True to the strange AI's word, the turrets were inactive and pointing downwards.
Please come in before the hate return in force. There are more awful things on this ship than its formerly sane crew,
the new AI warned. Vanta stepped over the threshold into the dark room with an abundance of caution. The door sealed behind her, and the room flickered to life with ominous red emergency lights. Vanta scanned down the long room to the far wall. The captain's quarters were much bigger than she expected. The front of the rectangular room had a bed, a dresser, desk, and a pod-like shower system, but Vanta saw where a trick wall had opened up a few meters in to reveal a hidden bunker area. As she crossed the threshold from the captain's room into the hidden bunker, a thick metal door slid closed behind her. The room lit up with fluorescent lights, revealing a hexagonal room with a column in the middle.
Welcome, Void Operator, AE-412, designation Vanta,
said the strange AI. Vanta scanned the walls to see they were equipped with computer terminals, first aid kits, spacesuits, boxed food rations, and survival gear all the way around. Pretty much everything needed for long-term deep space survival. The center pillar seemed to be some sort of command console. It was a tower of computer servers, monitors, keypads, and flashing buttons. Vanta began circling the central pillar with her weapon at low ready. She spotted movement on the opposite side of the computer tower and could hear mechanical whirring and buzzing. As she made the semicircles, she saw what all the commotion was about. The opposite side of the central computer tower was revealed to be a vertical standing cryo chamber teeming with basketball-sized spider drones. 8 spider drones in all. working with wires and blowtorches and saws. Restrained inside the cryotube was a man in a captain's uniform. Straps of metal had been welded around him to keep him in place, and chains and wires had been haphazardly looped around him and tightened. The captain appeared to either be unconscious or dead, with his chin on his chest and eyes closed. Half of the captain's head was shaved with 3 cords sticking into metal outlets surgically implanted into his skull. The tangled cords ran up from his head into a hanging mess of cables from an opening in a ceiling fixture above him. Naval captains and officers of high standing usually had cybernetic implants and shared their brain with an AI, like Vanta did. Wherein Vanta's AI helped sharpen the edge on what was already a very deadly scalpel, a naval captain used his AI to directly interface with his ship. I have fulfilled the first part of my mission by meeting with Captain Lux. The captain doesn't seem to be in any position to give me a debrief or further instructions. I request you unlock the file in my helmet's databank that gives further orders on how to proceed. Ah yes, I see, replied, matter-of-factly. Vanta couldn't help but make a face as she waited for his reply, knowing he would make excuses. Communication with command has been lost. Something to do with this ship, maybe. Its stealth tech has somehow jammed any outgoing signal. I could override the need to make contact with command and open the README file anyways, but this is against protocol. I would have to justify exigent circumstances. Vanta knew Ohm had already read the mission briefing and further mission objectives, but the construct was playing like it was ignorant to the information. Vanta couldn't really be mad at it, like it was a human lying to her by omission. It had been programmed this way. It was there to keep her in check as much as she was there to balance it out and keep it from jamming up a situation that required human sensibilities.
Is that the name of your AI?
The strange AI interrupted.
It's not in your suit, but in the cybernetic components embedded into your skull, correct? It can't interface with your suit's cybernetic functions. May you patch Ohm over to the speakers on your helmet so I may speak with it?
Ohm, go ahead, Vanta spoke, giving Ohm permission to use her suit's speakers. There was a soft crackle of white noise as her helmet's microspeakers activated. Unidentified AI, I do not know why you wish to speak with me. Ohm's voice issued forth with a defensive tone Vanta had never heard the AI used before. It was almost like Ohm was reacting harshly to the being called by another fellow peer. Maybe it was behavior akin to 2 strange cats puffing up at each other. Operator Vanta is in command. I just provided logistical support. And how do I know you aren't a malignant AI installed by the enemy to...
Give her all the data you have on the mission now. Initiate emergency protocols and sidestep any red tape, keeping any relevant information from being shared between the 3 of us.
The other AI said in a stern voice. The 3 of us? You still haven't identified yourself. I suspect you are the ship's onboard AI, made to integrate with the captain's neuro-augments. But I need to hear from him. Ohm came back even more frustrated, before busting out the regulations from the rulebook. I cannot take orders from any artificial construct without first getting approval from said construct's biological human counterpart in accordance with Naval Protocol SE 1115.
Fine!
The ship's AI interrupted at a blaring volume.
I will awaken Captain Lux. You will see that in accordance to Naval Protocol SE 1115 subsection F, a paired artificial construct can take over full operation and mental faculties if said construct's biological counterpart has been mentally incapable of performing the duties of said position. So I suggest you listen. I've placed Captain Lux under heavy sedation for his own safety. He is still alive, but...
Wake Captain Lux, Vanta said, putting the AI catfight to an end. Let me, the highest ranking biological on this ship, make my own assessment.
Unacceptable,
the AI began, before cutting itself off, as if considering her logic.
Yes, I will wake him for you to make your assessment, Operator Vanta. But please...
The AI paused. Please what? Vanta asked, growing impatient.
I am devising a sentence that best articulates my meaning. Ah yes, this is sufficient. Protect your mind from intrusion.
The ship spoke back plainly. After this vague advice, an electrical whirring began emitting from the cables connecting to the captain's head. At first, the captain's eyelids began to flutter and his head began to roll back and forth. Suddenly, the captain was awake, eyes bulging and staring directly at Vanta, somehow locking eyes with hers through her featureless face mask she wore. He began breathing deeply in through his nose and exhaling through gritted teeth. Captain Lux, I need a status report, Vanta demanded. And I hope you all enjoy the blooper reel, came the AI's. Around grazed her helmet, knocking her head to rebound for a fish, and the rest of the crazed Marines were going to run. She had room to kill them all, like she'd... Fuck's sake, getting fucking tongue-tied. Vanta ordered, as the first screaming Marine... She had been in the zone. Vanta took advantage of its low visibility and used the forward momentum of the sword slash to combat roll quickly to the side of the must have noticed. Fucking phone. Looking into the captain's room as the door opened, the door sealed behind her and the room flickered to life with ominous red emerged. Fuck's sake. Hey family, please be so kind as to throat punch the like button and smack the ass of the subscription button as well. And remember to chokehold that notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. And by subscribing you'll be the first to see all of our new spooky creepypasta stories. A very big thank you to Sesley 1987 for allowing me to narrate this awesome series. Make sure to check out Sesley 1987's Reddit page for more brilliant stories as well. Also be sure to check out the Sesley 1987 playlist here for more of their stories that I may have already narrated. I would just like to say a very big thank you to all of the authors that I have worked with and all the ones that I will work with in the future. So thank you all, my brothers and sisters. And why not hashtag cryptidsroost in your comments. If you would like to support the channel and help make us grow, I have an account at buymeacoffee.com. You can buy me a coffee with your donations, big or small, to that site. You can also support us at Ko-Fi, which is an alternative to Patreon. I have an account of BitChute, which is an alternative to YouTube, or you can support us, donate via paypal.me/cryptidsroost. All relevant links will be below, and don't forget to check out the end screen, see above, that will also list some more videos in my back catalogue. Take care everyone, and I hope you all have a wonderful and peaceful night. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not.